Hello everyone, I'm Nitsuhon, and today I'm bringing you a special collaboration with a fellow scholar, magic historian, and former Magic the Gathering coverage writer, Eli Kaplan. He has his own YouTube channel, Ancestral, and you should definitely check it out. In this video, we're going to have a bit of festive fun. Both Eli and I have put our heads together to come up with a deck that represents a winter holiday. As the Gregorian calendar year draws to a close, it's time to celebrate, hang out with friends, and drink some hot chocolate. And as usual, we're going to celebrate the most famous holiday that falls on the 25th. Yes, that holiday that consistently, regularly, always falls on the 25th.
Of Kislev. Yes, we're talking about Hanukkah, which always starts on the night of the 25th of the Hebrew month of Kislev. Why? What holiday did you think we were talking about? Of course we're talking about Hanukkah. Now, Judaism uses a lunar calendar, so the holiday moves around a lot on the Gregorian calendar, but it's always on the 25th of Kislev, and it usually occurs in December.
Yeah, there are lots of Christmas-themed decks out there, so we thought it was time that Hanukkah, a fellow winter holiday, got the same treatment.
One of the early duelists, I think it was number 4 or number 5 back in 1995, had an article by Paul Peterson about how to build a Christmas-themed deck. Now, this was predating EDH, and the card that was centered about Santa Claus was Joven from Legends. But anyway, today we're going to tell you guys about our Hanukkah-themed deck. And since the most popular format for fun-themed play is Commander, we're going to use that format.
And we're going to use this deck to give you guys a look at many of the historical themes of Hanukkah. After all, it is a holiday commemorating a real historical event, though some of the aspects of the deck deal with the storytelling behind the holiday, which is less obviously historical, and we're going to be adapting some of the modern tropes and jokes about the holiday as well for the deck. But to be clear, this is a deck designed around real ideas and themes of the holiday, and we're taking the deck, even though it's fun, very seriously. I teach Jewish history, and I'm a few months away from completing a PhD in the subject, so making a deck like this that combines my two passions, Jewish history and magic, seems like a lot of fun.
Yeah, so let's start with the historical events. Around 200 BCE, the Assyrian Empire, out of Syria, had taken control of Israel and Jerusalem, site of the Holy Temple of Judaism. In 168, Antiochus, son of the conquering king, decided to throw out the priests and made the temple a shrine to Zeus.
This group of Assyrians, called the Seleucids, were a successor state to the empire of Alexander the Great, and they absorbed many aspects of Greek culture, including the Greek pantheon, and they converted the temple, the center of priestly Israel in Jerusalem, where sacrifices were offered, into a pagan temple. Many previous entities had, of course, conquered the territory where the Jews lived, but most of the previous rulers had been more tolerant, and it had been centuries since the temple had been taken away from the Jews, so losing it was a catastrophic event. The temple was where the Ark of the Covenant was kept, and there was an eternal flame, which was a holy symbol that was to be perpetually lit. There was also a candelabra there, called a menorah, that it was believed to have been first used by Moses. Well, when the Assyrians came in and defiled the temple by putting golden bull statues to Zeus in, these relics were desecrated, and the eternal flame was extinguished.
An elder priest, Masyahu, and his 5 sons organized an armed rebellion to take back Jerusalem and the temple and reconsecrate the temple for the true faith. Now, the most famous leader of the 5 brothers was Judah, nicknamed the Hammer, or Maccabee. I don't care for the classical musical piece that uses the Roman pronunciation of his name, Judas Maccabeus. Anyway, we're going to represent this rebellion with a number of rebel cards, the signature white tribe from Masks block. They're understated by current power toughness standards, sure, but their card advantage function is great. And there are some solid ETB effects that their recruit ability can capitalize on. And nothing goes so well with rebels as insurrection, a classic way to finish games up in a decisive fashion.
To represent the blessings and holiness of the temple, we're going to go with artifacts as a theme of the deck. Some obvious choices are Scroll Rack to represent the Holy Torah, the key book of the faith of the Jews.
So we have our 2 commanders, Judah Maccabee, the brilliant leader who's supported by his faith and the temple and his brethren. He's vigilant, striking fear into the enemy with superior tactics and knowledge of the local land. And his father, whose wisdom restores the greatness of the temple by bringing back artifacts back from the graveyard. Yeah, we're going to go with partner commanders, Akiri, Lineslinger, and Silas Wren. Now, a lot of this deck is going to use good cards from the Invent Superiority Commander 2016 deck, so if you're starting on a budget, that is a big shortcut to getting yourself on the way they're running it.
And if you don't care about the budget, good, because I wanted to make sure we get the Candelabra of Tanos in the deck.
It is really good in the deck, yeah. and it is the best card representing the menorah, specifically the 9-candle Hanukkah, used specifically for Hanukkah. Jewish temples and synagogues normally have an 8-candle menorah for regular observances. It's just that this antiquities rare is so damn expensive.
And we're also going to be representing the Festival of Light with flame, fire, and light, all things you would associate with candles and light. We will even include miracles to represent the idea of God helping the Maccabees succeed in their endeavor. This includes cards like Thunderous Flame, Bonfire of the Damned, Entreat the Angels, and Fireball. Also, a solid board wipe like Terminus, which puts all creatures on the bottom of libraries, and then with the recruiters, we can get them right back in a short amount of time.
My favorite deep cut in the flame part is Rekindled Flame, which is arguably the best symbol of victory as the eternal flame is rekindled. Also, some player is going to run out of cards at some point, so we can abuse it at that point. I mean, flavor and card advantage, yeah.
That isn't the only burn theme you can find in this deck. To commemorate Judah the Hammer, we are also adding a bunch of hammers to the deck. This includes Hammer of Bogarden, Volcanic Hammer, and Fall of the Hammer. Burning Oil is an underpowered but on-theme choice to get involved in combats, and it is pleasantly political.
And while golems aren't actually connected to Hanukkah, they stem out of Prague's Jewish community's storytelling in the early modern period. But golems are artifacts and good creatures that work with our army, and they're defenders of the Jewish faith, so we're putting in some goodies from this tribe.
Oh, and we even mentioned oil, which was part of the consecration ceremony and needed to rekindle the flame, so we have Burning Oil and Worm Oil Engine. Bringing that guy back out is just plain amazing. Oh, and we decided to honor some of the modern trappings of the holiday, like Underworld Coinsmith, who represents the Gelt chocolate coins kids get and play dreidel with. Speaking of the dreidel, there's only one card that fits that to a T, and it's Sensei's Divining Top. We even included Primal Clay, from which you can, of course, make a dreidel. A dreidel bears 4 letters, Nun, Gimel, Hey, and Shin, which is usually attributed as standing for Nas Gadol Haya Sham, a great miracle happened there. Or, alternatively, no change, win all, take half, and put one in the pot.
Yeah, and you can spin the top and play with it forever, ignoring the people around you. I try to keep its use to a minimum. But let's talk about the pop culture bits, like the Hanukkah zombie from Futurama, and that's Thraximundar. His hasty beats and forcing bad players to sacrifice creatures, very appropriate. And I love watching the Hebrew Hammer every winter. If you don't know the Hebrew Hammer, it's a Jewish version of a blaxploitation movie with a ridiculously capable protagonist who I think is Brea, because she can handle almost any situation.
And then there's, of course, the Hanukkah Goblin.
The what?
Look, it's from a kid's book I love called Herschel and the Hanukkah Goblins. In it, a man named Herschel is visited every night of Hanukkah by a scarier and scarier goblin, and he has to outsmart each of them. So our team of goblins is going to be led off with Duretti Scrap Savant to allow more recursion, as well as his more badass version. We also want Tuk Tuk on our team, since he is both a goblin and a golem.
Hey, fair is fair. Let's also talk about another theme, light. We already mentioned the menorah, but there are also other light referencing cards. Candles Glow, as a saving trick, is a great political ploy. And Candles of Leng is a great budget alternative to Candelabra of Tanos, and is always going to hit you extra cards. Banish in Light is a slightly less good version of Oblivion Ring, but it still fits. And, okay, we gotta be honest, there are some cards we're not going to use in our deck. Theros' Gods and Amonkhet's Gods, I mean, yes, we're talking about a religious holiday, but no, we're not going to add these. They definitely feel like the Assyrian deity. Fish liver oil has oil in the name, but is more like gefilte fish, and Passover features fried food. And I don't particularly like gefilte fish.
Yep, I do like gefilte fish, especially with horseradish, but yeah, I only eat it at Passover, so it doesn't belong here. We're also including an interesting alternate win condition, mechanized production. The possibility of making 8 copies of Candles of Leng, which means that we win. This possibility is just too sweet to ignore, and while that's the ideal flavor win, making 8 copies of any artifact is pretty flavorful for a Hanukkah deck.
So we're going to put together a pretty optimized land base for the deck, supplemented with a few mana rocks. Both of us agreed that there would be some great temples from Theros block that made perfect fits, like Temple of Triumph and Temple of Enlightenment. Temple of Malice, on the other hand, Temple of Deceit, Temple of the False God. No, that isn't appropriate in the least. With a 4-color mana base, we need a lot of useful things like the Ravnica bounce lands and the 3-color tap lands from Shards and Tarkir block. And if you want to go all out with the budget, Shadowmoors, Filter lands, and Fetch lands can also help. We didn't put them in our deck list, but we definitely want Academy Ruins and Deserted Temple representing the beginning of the holiday. The lists below.
So with that said, let's take a few moments to talk about a simple question. What's that card doing there? Sequestered Stash represents the hidden flask of blessed oil that they found that lasted them 8 days.
I love Hammerfist Giants, and if we put an equipment on it that helps it survive its activated ability, wow, is that exploitable. I mean, talk about a ground and pound strategy. Also, Giants are biblical, like Goliath.
Kids at Hanukkah receive and play with gelt, chocolate coins wrapped in silver or gold foil. We have represented that with Underworld Coinsmith, a guy who makes the chocolate, and Guild, which even sort of sounds like gelt. I like the way we got our black cards to be chocolate themed. We also included EDH staple Acquire, but it has extra flavor here, as the Maccabees were able to re-obtain important Jewish relics, the same way you can use Acquire to take some of your opponent's best relics.
Okay, I think we've covered everything. We hope that those of you who celebrate Hanukkah can give a build similar to this a spin when you aren't busy spinning a dreidel during the holiday. And if there's anything about the holiday you think we skipped over, sound off in the comments.
Make some tweaks if you want to. Give it a spin this holiday or later and let us know what you thought. We really went for flavor and power second, but there should be enough power in there to win a multiplayer game once in a while. So thanks for working with me on this again, Eli. Everyone, please check out Eli's MTG YouTube channel, Ancestral Recall, to see more of the great content he produces.
Thanks for having me, Nisahon. It's been a pleasure.
You too. It has been a pleasure having you. That's it, guys. If you enjoyed this video, remember to like it and share it so others can enjoy it too. Thanks for watching.